Obi-Doo, it's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast. Today we're going to look at the Pentax K1000. I used this camera extensively in the late 80s through the 90s and even the early 2000s until I got my first digital camera. And the reason I like it is because it was fully automatic. Oh, it had an electric eye, so a match needle. So if you set the aperture and the shutter speed, the match needle would move into a notch, and then you know you have the right exposure. But everything else was mechanical. The shutter was completely mechanical. The aperture linkage was completely mechanical. Everything was completely mechanical. So I really liked this camera. In fact, I had two of them. But I gave one to a buddy. He helped me with some stuff, so I gave it to him. I was using the Ricoh 35 to 70 f3.5, but the lens died. It got dropped. That's a sad story. I had it in a gadget bag attached to the camera, and my ex-wife dropped the gadget bag and it whacked the lens. But I took a lot of pictures with it. It was a really nice lens. Ricoh 35 to 70 f3.5. So I don't have it. So I just have this SMC Pentax A zoom on it to make it look like a camera. So it's just a placeholder. You know, you take a lot of pictures with film and you don't need the electric eye anymore. You just know from taking pictures that, oh, that's 1250 at f11. Well, the light's changing a little bit. Now, what you could do is you could say, well, you know, I'm using this lens. Say it's a cloudy day, 125. That's the slowest I could go. So I'm going to have to adjust my aperture. Maybe you're shooting at f8 at a 5.6, right? So that's just the way it is. And you could really nail it. Plus, film had a much wider latitude back in the day. So I use this camera a lot. That's where the battery goes for electric eye. And the Ricoh, that stayed on this camera all the time. The Ricoh 35 to 70 f3.5 zoom. I went to car shows. I traveled over to the city. I just took a lot of pictures with it. And you know, you say you get 24 exposures on a roll or 36. You always had to make sure you had like, you know, 5 or 6 rolls of film with you. Usually I like to shoot ISO 400, but in a pinch I would use 200. In fact, the photos we're going to look at today were shot on Fuji HG 200 film, which was nice film back in the day. But I used all sorts of film. My favorite was Kodak Royal X. It was 1000 speed film, but it had a tight grain. If you properly exposed it, the grain became invisible. It's only if you underexposed it, then you could see the grain. So it's very important to nail the focus, the exposure properly. And you know, that's the thing. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but with the Royal X, the Royal 1000, say you went to a concert and the people and the subjects in the spotlight were fine grain and beautiful, but as you got at the edges where it got darker and darker, you would see a lot of grain. So, but I went to the Teterboro airport, and they were having some sort of display of warbirds from World War II. Now you got to remember, this is in 1999, which was 26 years ago, since I'm doing this in 2025. So those planes may not even be in service. Maybe they were actually flying them into Teterboro, but maybe now they're on static display because they're too old to fly or something. So this is historic photojournalism. And I was actually trying to do that, document my surroundings in a time and a place, and with this camera and that lens. So it's Teterboro Airport, which is in Teterboro, New Jersey. That's sort of close to Hackensack and It's the rich people use it to jet set into Teterboro and then take their limos into the city. That's what they do. A lot of sports figures, you know, politicians, that sort of stuff. And I went there with my ex-wife. She was my wife at the time. We went there. I used to drag her around places. I knew she wasn't interested, but, you know, we went anyway. Maybe that's why she became my ex-wife. So, but that's another story. So it's a great lens combo. Excellent. I could recommend you picking up one of these. Asaya Pentax K1000s. There's some say made in Japan. I think there's some say made in Taiwan and some made in Hong Kong. So there's a couple, and I think there are even some that were made in China, the late versions. So a zoom lens, a short zoom lens on this camera was great. And if you used a proper film, oh, and it had a full focusing screen and a micro diaprism center. Of course, my eyes were a lot younger then, and I could actually see things good. And you can nail the focus with this wide open. So, and that's the thing, it was wide open metering. And then when you press the button, everything would stop down and you take a picture. I'll demonstrate. I'll waste a shot. That's how noisy it was. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these pictures. They were taken on film. I sent them to Dell Labs. They're in Florida somewhere. I don't know if they're still around. And for a fee, they would scan them and put them on the Kodak photo CD. And they came with different resolutions. Each picture was scanned in different resolutions. I think the maximum resolution was 12 megapixels. But, you know, there's no software to look at these things. And all the software I have will only pull out a 6 megapixel picture. So it's okay. That's like a 6 megapixel DSLR. I'm cool with that. And that means I could still zoom up on them. So I could take a picture, which is a cropped, because I'm doing 16:9 for this format, right? And I shrunk it down to this format, which is 1920 by 1080. But then I was still able to go back to this 6 megapixel picture and do a full frame crop so I could see if the lens was good or what was film grain all about. And we're going to see that in the slideshow following. So this is Teterboro Airport, 1990. Oh, and after that, I have some pictures of Newark International Airport. That's what it was called back then. They switched the name to Liberty Airport, Liberty International. But it used to be called Newark International. And this is in 1999. It was before 9/11. So shall we say, the security wasn't as intense as it is now. And you could just walk through and take pictures and like that. And everyone was cool about it. You know, that's like pre-terrorism days and all that. And I think those pictures were taken in February. Now, they might have been taken in February of 1999, whereas the Teterboro Airport was probably taken somewhat later, maybe in March or April. It was just a gloomy day. But it turned out to be the perfect day to take pictures of airplanes because there are no harsh shadows. If the sun was hitting down, then one side of the plane would be in sun, the other side would be in shadow, anything under the wings. You'd always have to keep adjusting your exposure. I was lucky. I didn't have to adjust the shutter speed much, and this, you know, 1 or 2 f-stops up or down, depending, and that was it. So it worked out really good. So let's just jump right into the slideshow and check it out. Teterboro Airport, sometime in 1999. Using the Pentax K1000 and a Ricoh 35 to 70 millimeter of 3.5. Look at, there's the Goodyear blimp out in the distance. They had some planes there. I read about it in a newspaper. So I went down there and I dragged the old lady with me to get a day out and check things out. And they had the B-24, B-17, and a Catalina there. They also had inside this is the Catalina. Inside, they had one of the hangars. They had people cosplaying as World War II military people, which I thought was pretty cool. I think that's another roll of film. I'll have to dig them out and see if I can find them. Well, you could get up close and personal. Look at, there's nobody there. You know, as soon as these people walked away, I went over and checked it all out. You could climb up and go into airplanes. And I think I have another roll of film with some interior of the cockpits. Here's some of the business end. Well, yeah, that looks like pretty massive cannon. Is that a machine gun or a cannon? I guess it's a machine gun. I don't know. I mean, it's just aluminum sheets. There's no protection against bullets, that's for sure. I don't think they gave the guys flak jackets, did they? I don't know. And you notice all the propellers, they only have one propeller that is pointing down. I guess that's the way they set them up. Panchito. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You know, and the fact that it was drizzly and rainy, I think that put a little bit of you know, authenticity, or gave it some sort of mood or something. Yeah, can you imagine being in a turret shooting bad guys who are coming after you to shoot you down? Scary. That's the Catalina. That this is a seaplane. They could actually land and take off on water. And they had a huge range, like 2,000 miles. I took a picture of the plaque that explained it all. Of course, I've seen these in movies from the 40s, 50s, and even the 60s. It kept getting rarer and rarer to see these things. You know, they actually flew them in, but are they still flying, or are they in a static display somewhere? That's the thing. Don't know. Yeah, Consolidated PBY-6A Catalina. Look at that. 2,530 mile range. All right, there's only a couple people there. I couldn't believe it. I'm not even sure if it cost us any money to get in or anything. Yeah, you could still see movies with Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart where they fly these planes. They're like war movies and stuff. And you notice the dynamic range on this film? It's pretty good. It had a real wide dynamic range, and you could adjust it to bring out the shadows or reduce the highlights or whatever. So I had this lens and I walked around and took a bunch of pictures, and I really liked it. I don't know what my ex-wife thought, but maybe she's just putting up with it. I don't know. So yeah, I was like 10 feet away from this plane. I was taking pictures of everything. Because when's the next time I'm ever going to see a Catalina? Probably never. Yeah, 2 engines. Those engines, you got to depend on that. And I had to bring gasoline with them, so the wings were full of gas, and they had probably some other gas tank somewhere else, and they had bombs and bullets, and you know, damn, what were those people thinking back in the day? Look at that guy. He's posing, taking a picture. World War II, we have no conception what it's all about. Boeing B-17G Flying Fortress, fuddy-duddy. They were supposed to do 100 missions, and then that's it. You go home, and there's 96 missions. They got hammered. And, well, on some other day, I went to the airport, me and the wife, and, 1999, we walked through the concourse, looked out all the windows, took a bunch of pictures. I mean, this is an airplane themed slideshow, but it's from the olden days to the modern days. And this is so old that tower is not there anymore. They upgraded everything. Continental, that is like their big hub. They don't even have that emblem anymore. They have a totally different emblem. I think they got rid of the red color. Ooh, scary look, it's the Twin Towers. That's how old these pictures are, right? Who would know that, some odd months later, they would be blown up and all that stuff. Oh, strange. Continental, yeah. And they don't even have this emblem anymore. Yeah, look at that, the Twin Towers. Kodak Photo CD. It was an interesting concept at the time. Kodak was trying to get into the digital age and maintain their film, and I guess it didn't pan out. Oh, I bought a video camera and I did some videos of planes taking off and landing. This is a time and a place. This is a historical photojournalism. That's all. That's the purpose of this is. 1999. A lot of people weren't even alive back then. Weren't even thought of.